kind of want to behave in certain ways, and sometimes it seems like it just doesn't happen. Like I don't behave the way I want to behave.
Well,
like I want to be charismatic, I want to be super funny, I want to do all these things, I want to be more hospitable, I want to be kinder, I want to be more engaging, I want to be more...
but that's what we mean by get out ahead of it. You got to get out ahead of it. Esther's favorite story from her sister's children when they were little, they want to go into the store with their mother, and she says, you can come with me, but you have to behave. And Cynthia said, oh, we'll be really have. And so it's not something that you can just do. It's the vibrational basis of who you are. It's what influence are you under. So if you're out ahead of it and you are frolicking in the friskiness of who you are, then isn't it logical that all of those things that you described would be the natural byproduct of all of that? And that the timing, in other words, for you to be really clever, you're clever so much of the time, and no one is there to... So cleverness really implies someone to perceive how clever you are. And that's about timing, isn't it?
Yes.
Haven't you found yourself, don't you watch other people sometimes come alive when they're in a group? And haven't you said, oh, now you're just showing off again? Well, the group is just calling from them what they've come to expect. And so the answer to your question is get out ahead of it, because you can't walk into an environment with a relationship to your inner being that is less than your allness and be those things that you described. Those are symptoms or examples or manifestations of being tuned in, tapped in, turned on.
Lovely. Okay. Then
and would you really want to always be there?
I like being there really consistently. I like feeling good and feeling like I have this sense of assuredness and confidence.
Let's talk about what it's like to be, we used to say get in the vortex, and what we meant was be the vibrational equivalent of what the vortex is. These days we're saying be the vibrational equivalent of what the vortex is, be in the receiving mode so that you can receive from the vortex in this moment. It doesn't matter which way you are looking at it. Being in the vortex, being tuned in, tapped in, turned on. What happens when you are consistently there is it just gets easier and easier and easier to be consistently there. But when you're in this vortex, sometimes you feel incredible interest in a subject. Sometimes you feel a desire to speak your interest in impeccable terms that are so clever and maybe have never been heard in this combination by the human ear. Sometimes you feel so full of yourself that you feel invincible and you just want to yodel down the canyon or leap for joy or take someone in your arms or some definitive expression of your joy. But in the vortex has a lot of latitude, and if you are always at the same pitch, it would grow tiresome. You like the variety of it. So what we are suggesting, human dears, we do love you so much, is that you set a desire for your range of emotions to be satisfied and beyond, so that you're not dipping into complacency or boredom or insecurity or fear. You've just practiced feeling good so much that it's really easy to stay there, but that you don't ask yourself to always be tuned to the highest frequency, because you know what? You would grow weary because there's not a crowd on the leading edge, and you would start to feel too clever for the world.
And you don't ask to always tune yourself to the highest frequency all the time. That can create this unreasonable expectation, and it kind of creates a room to judge yourself and to be kind of harsh to yourself rather than being easy with yourself.
Well said.
Okay, so you're expecting too much, too often.
We don't ever want to say you're expecting too much, because the universe can yield to you all that you want. But if it feels like you're expecting too much, then you bring the lackful into the vibration, and that's why it feels like that. But we really want to make the point. You see, Your inner being is always there, ready to play with you. And you can't be too clever for your inner being. Your inner being is matching you point for point. In fact, almost all of the cleverness that you think is you is them. But you get credit for it, because if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one there to hear it, it doesn't make a sound. If there's not someone to translate the vibration into something, then there's no ability to perceive it. Did you get all that?
Yes.
We're having a really good conversation today.
Well, so I guess what I had here is that can I condition my human suit? Because my
Why?
source is unlimited. Well, I want my human suit to behave more in the ways that I want that is in alignment with source.
But can't you feel the lackful consciousness from which you're making that statement? Can you get there from there?
Okay, so it's assuming that it's imperfect from the beginning rather than it's already perfect?
Assuming that imperfect is perfect.
Okay.
Assuming that you're never going to get it done, that there's always going to be more. If you're an eternal being, isn't there more? And if there is going to be more, then isn't there less now? And if there's less now, can you get to more? No.
Well, condition yourself to experience happiness more often and to be in the receptive mode more often. So step 4 is happening.
And when you are there, you don't talk to us like that.
You don't. Okay. Because you're already assuming that you're there.
Because perception is perception.
Perception is reality.
And so what you're talking about is training yourself, intending to lean in the direction of feeling good. But in this conversation here today, we have discussed some, you use the word reasonable, all things are. We don't want to make it sound harder or more difficult or easier, because all things are possible. But in this discussion of possibilities, all things are possible to the extent of your expectation. But we must say that without condemnation of your current expectation. Your current expectation has to be all right. So let's really talk about this. This is so leading edge and so where this discussion is ready to go. Are you wanting to have a little bit of this discussion? So what you are bringing to the forefront is that there is always a jumping off place, that there's always a place, there's always a now. There's always a powerful now. And let's call this powerful now my perception of this now. So there's always now and there's always more. So what we're talking about is how to get from here to someplace else without putting so much emphasis on here that we stay here. Did you get that? Too much emphasis on what is won't let you have more. So humans have conjured all this ridiculous stuff about, well, you're greedy if you want more, you're not supposed to have more, let's be reasonable about it, or whatever. And all of that is bogus, because you are an infinite being always reaching for more. And when you accept that, when you accept the perfection of your incompletion, now you're rocking and rolling. So rather than call it not enough, let's just call it incomplete. And rather than calling it incomplete, let's just call you eternal. Because if you could be complete, you couldn't be eternal. If you can ever get it done, if you could ever get it done, then you're done. And there's no done. There's always more. And so don't you think it's time to embrace the incompletion that is you? We don't mean embrace it, we mean revel in it. Revel in the moreness that is coming. Revel in the knowing that this is great for right now, and oh, there's this, and then oh, there's this, and then oh, there's this vehicle, yahoo, really like it, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Then there's this one, and 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 there will always be another and another and another.